Alright guys, so in the previous section of this chapter we learned how to find the reciprocal of fractions, which means the inverse or the opposite. We are going to now apply that to solving equations, so solving for the variable. Okay, so if we have, let's look at our first equation. We have 2/3 L equals 14. So our variable is L. We want to isolate the L so we can solve for the value of L. We know we have 2/3 L. That is the same as 2/3 times L. So in order to cancel that out, I have to do the opposite or the inverse operation, which would be the opposite of multiplication is division. And what I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Right? So this cancels out. So now I have L equals 14 divided by 2/3. Okay. So in order to do 14 divided by 2/3, I have to find the reciprocal of 2/3. Go ahead and jot down the reciprocal of 2/3. That's right. It is 3/2. And now I just multiply across. This is over a 1. Remember, whole numbers are over a 1. So at this stage, I want to check and make sure that I can't simplify anything. Well, I have 14 and 2. Those are both divisible by 2. So this becomes a 1, and this becomes a 7. So now I have 7 times 3 over 1 times 1. Okay? And then I just do my multiplication. I have 7 times 3 equals 21 over 1, which is the same thing as 21. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to work this next problem two separate ways because I think one is a little more explanatory than the other. So we have 2x equals 1/3. So we want to isolate x by itself. I know that 2x means 2 times x. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2. Right? So I'm going to divide by 2. Divide by 2. 1/3 divided by 2. Okay? So now I have x equals 1/3 divided by 2. Now, in order to divide these two numbers, the fraction and this whole number, I have to find the reciprocal of 2. The reciprocal. So what is the reciprocal of 2, or the inverse fraction of 2? If you wrote down 1/2, you are correct. And then you would do your multiplication across, which would equal 1/6. Okay? Another way is if you have 2x equals 1/3, and I know that in order to divide I have to multiply by the reciprocal, I would multiply each side by 1/2 because this would cancel out this, right? Because then I would just have 1 times x, which is x, and now I have my 1 times 1/3 times 1/2. So that's another way to do it. Okay? Alright, so in this equation we have 5x over 6 equals 4. So in order to isolate this x, to get the x by itself, I'm going to multiply by the inverse fraction on both sides. Right? Because now I have 5 and 6, they cancel each other out, and I have x equals 4 times 6 over 5. Right? So now I just multiply across. This is over 1. 6 times 4 is 24. 1 times 5 is 5. You might realize that this is an improper fraction because my numerator is larger than my denominator. So I'm going to come over here and do some math. 24 divided by 5. 5 will go into 24 4 times. 4 times 5 is 20, which leaves me 4 left over. Remember, this is my new whole number, and this is my new numerator, or top number. Okay, so it equals 4 4/5. Okay, feel free to rewind and replay and pause and take notes so you can get the steps down to solve these equations.